Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Thursday night live stream. I am so excited to have our guest back on for the second time, probably the closest I've ever had the same guest on twice. But I'm so excited for the samples we're going to be trying tonight. If you were watching the replay, I will be putting markers down below where you can skip around and find which bottle you happen to be trying, or maybe you're thinking about trying. And you can see us taste along, maybe taste along with you if you're sipping along with us. But I want to give a couple shout outs to people here in the chat. By the way, I put that message up. I put a poll on my community tab on my YouTube channel where you can vote for what you are most interested in seeing me try tonight. I wish I could share a pour with you, but make sure to go vote in that. I'm curious to check that throughout the night and see what people are most interested in trying. Right now, it seems like a lot of y'all are really interested in this cognac one, and so am I. So get your votes in. We'll be referencing that later on tonight. See maybe what people are most excited for. I see Fred in the chat. He says, exploration for the win. Jesse is one of us. Agree with that 100%. So Fred, you mentioned that the funky drummer is not an option. Not tonight. However, I am going to be doing a giveaway. It's been a minute since we've done a giveaway, but I figured tonight would be a good one. This one brought to you by the good folks over at Doc Swinson's. They actually sent over 2 more samples of both the funky drummer, which I tried on the last stream. That was the rye whiskey finish in Jamaican rum cask, as well as the smoke on water. Now this is the rye whiskey finish in Scotch quarter casks. So I will be giving away a sample of both of those, as well as this older release of Doc Swinson's rye whiskey. This is actually from a few years ago, before they even started the Solera Method Alter Ego rye. So if you are interested in, I didn't break it, I promise. If you are interested in winning those pours, you know the drill. Every $5 super chat is an entry to the Wheel of Whiskey, which we will be spinning at the end of the night to see who wins these samples. But most of all, I just appreciate all the support of the channel, whether it's a super chat, becoming a patron, or just hitting that subscribe button down there and the like button. So without further ado, let's bring on our guest, like I said, for the second time in very, very close quarters. Welcome back to the show, Jesse Parker from Doc Swinson's. Welcome.
Thanks, Clifton. Appreciate you having me on again, especially so close to our last round. I think this is the closest I've ever done a podcast redo too. So that's awesome. One for the win.
Yeah, well, you guys, so we did this last stream together where we tried both the samples that I mentioned before, as well as just the core lineup, the Alter Ego Bourbon, Alter Ego Rye, and the blenders. What is the bourbon? I forget the name of it. Sorry.
It's okay. All of our names are really confusing here at Doc Swinson's. We like to make them ridiculously long and hard to remember. No, it's a Blender's Cut. And it's the 3621 is the bourbon. And there will be a rye eventually, so sneak peek for you.
Gotcha. So yeah, you guys make sure to check out that stream. I put a link to it down in the description below. Check out part 1. This is technically part 2. But I guess you guys like the show so much that you guys sent us 5 new ones to try. So I'm very, very excited for this. I see a few people in the chat who are also excited. I see Zopher here in the chat. Donnie the Linux Cat, Donner Pass Whiskey. I know there's quite a few people streaming tonight, so I appreciate y'all tuning in. Emily Chambers in the chat. Good to see you, Emily. Alexander Drought, I do like port, so it'd have to be the Tawny port for you. Yeah, I'm very excited for that one too. Yeah, there's a lot of us for the Tawny, so I'll be referencing the poll later on tonight. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send them in. If I miss them, send it again. I'll come back to it. But like I said, we're trying 5 different ones tonight. Now, 4 of these are bourbons. 1 of them is a rye, like last time. So we're gonna do the bourbons first, because I think you were telling me right before the show, this is really interesting because these are all coming from the same base bourbon, like it's the same blend for all 4 of these, right?
Yep, that is correct. It's the Blender's Cut 3621, and in fact, these 4 samples all come from the exact same batch of bourbon. So the only difference is the time they spent in each different type of finishing cask, which is pretty cool. So you can see how it's evolved.
Awesome. So are these releases, are these out yet, or are these still kind of in still being blended?
These are still secretive. No, I'm just kidding. They're not that secretive. We're actually bottling them next week, and we're expecting them to hit the market here probably the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I honestly don't know exactly where you can find them yet. I think that's still to be determined, with the exception of we will put a small limited quantity of each one on our bottle shop on our website at docswhiskey.com.
Awesome. So yeah, keep an eye out for their website. If I don't have the link down in the description, I'll put it when I come back to edit this after. So that's very exciting. That's awesome. You guys are getting these bottles so quickly. I know if some of you guys may have seen, Matt from ADHD Whiskey did these in a blind flight. I think that was about a couple weeks ago. So tonight I'm trying them first time, that have not tried any of these yet. We're going to be going through them one by one, and Jesse's going to tell us a little bit about each of the different finishes. So if you're ready to get into this, we can get started with the first one.
Yeah, I've got my lineup right in front of me, so let's do it.
All right, so the first one is the Cognac cask. That's 114.7 proof.
Yep. So this is actually sort of a second release of what we released a while back, which was the L'Esprit. And that was part of the Mind, Body, and Spirit collection, which makes up the 3 finished whiskeys that go into the Alter Ego triple cask.
Gotcha.
So this is just the Cognac finished bourbon. And this one was pretty unique and quite special. And it's only a few hundred bottles, but it was only a couple very small barrels. And if any of you know a little bit about what I like to do, is mostly large format casks. So stuff, 400, 500, 600 liters. So 3 times the size of these guys right here behind me. And these ones were actually a collection of small, newer French oak casks. So they really exhibit some more of the French oak flavors going on in there. And I thought they were just really beautiful. So I wanted to blend up a little batch and put it out on the market.
Awesome. So first of all, I've noticed that the award behind you, is that new, or was that their last time and I missed it?
That one's new. I keep swapping awards out from time to time. That's our new Fred. That's our Fred Minnick, our Ascot Award this year.
Awesome.
For Independent Bottle of the Year. There's been so many award season.
Wow.
It was Independent Bottle of the Year, which is pretty cool. And then he recently talked about Blender's Cup being one of his favorite, which was an awesome shout out. So
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's thank you. I appreciate it. It's the heaviest award I've ever gotten, let me tell you.
So our friends at Whiskey Fancies, which is another incredible YouTube channel here, they say that the first Cognac cask they really enjoyed.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, this is my first time trying it, so I haven't had it. And then Fred Gilbert says small Cognac cask. That's odd/interesting.
It certainly is. That's why I thought they were pretty unique, and I wanted to highlight that. And small meaning they're 225 liter to 350, so they're not that small,
right?
But small for what I usually do. And they were much younger. Typically, my Cognac casks have been used for Cognac for 12 to 20 years before I get them, and these ones were only used for a couple.
Gotcha.
So a little bit more oak influence on it.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna give this a nose. Now, you said this is Indiana bourbon, correct?
Yeah, correct. So this is the Indiana 36% rye and 21% rye blended together, which is our Blender's Cut base.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of early Dachshunds is kind of showing the evolution of what we create. And the Exploratories, which these kind of fall under, are sometimes just a little haywire, but they're designed to highlight, I think, the best characteristics of each whiskey and each type of cask.
Yeah, I think that was one of the big takeaways from last stream, is that both the Blender's Cut and maybe it's just the Blender's Cut, that was like your base. Try that first, and then work on these exploratory things, and then see how that impacts the whiskey. Unfortunately, I don't have that one in front of me, but I got a good memory of how it is. So I'm excited to try it. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Now, is this you said these are all around like 114 proof. I'm trying to remember the other bourbon that you guys had that we tasted last time. Was that as high of proof, or was that also a little bit lower proof?
So the blender was the Blender's Cup we're referring to, right? From our last stream. Okay. Yeah, that is 115 proof on the nose. Mm-hmm. And that's how we bottled that every single time. So
okay. I was thinking it was a bit lower.
Right in that ballpark. Some of the other ones, of course, like our triple cask is 95.8, our Solera Method rye is 95, and then the Exploratories are all over the map, except for this lineup. This was a unique one since they all came from the same batch. And these were in those casks for about 11 and a half months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they're quite long, actually.
I was going to say, I definitely get on the finish. I think I'm picking up a bit of those like cognac notes, like very... It's not overwhelming. Like if you're a little hesitant about that, because I know sometimes cognac casks, I've had some that have been overwhelming, and it kind of like tastes like actually like you're drinking brandy. This though, this is a bourbon first and foremost, and I think it kind of complements the back end of it, and I think it works really, really nicely.
Thank you. I think we may have discussed this last time as well. Doc Swinson's, we want to focus on the bourbon first, the whiskey first, because that's what it is. I mean, it's the first ingredients. It's the majority of it. So we try and stick with more subtle finishes for 90% of our products. So you still get bourbon.
That's always good.
That's good. It's affirming.
Get bourbon in the bourbon.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, wait a second. I've definitely had some finishing casks too that were excellent still. But you're like, yeah, this is like drinking a cognac, like you said, or a port. And I'm like, okay, well, this is an expensive port.
True. So David from the Whiskey Ring Podcast, another awesome show. Love seeing all the other channels and podcasts in the chat. Says awesome job both. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Our friend Bill, the Whiskey Dick, is here as well, saying Clifton is the best. Thank you. By the way, if you guys in the chat are interested, Bill and I, along with Jason from the Mash and Drum, Ed from the Rock Gut Review, and Molly from Hugging the Cactus, do a Dungeons and Dragons campaign called Dungeons and Drams. We do it every Tuesday night, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. So much fun. Are you a D&D guy, Jesse, at all, or no?
That's awesome. No, not really. When I was younger, absolutely. My brother he's 33 now. And he's been a DM since I can remember, like, moving, So I had my fair share for about 8 years when I was younger, and I can't say I partake much anymore, except for over the pandemic during the lockdown. Definitely got back into it for a little while. I wish I could say so.
So I was totally new to it when Bill asked me to do it for the channel, and I was like, you know what, that seems really on brand for my channel. You know what, I'll do it. So he sent me a guidebook. I researched for a couple months, and we're on, like, Bill, what episode are we on now? But we're good bit into the campaign now, and I'm finally getting the hang of it. I'm still really bad at it. And that's why I do especially the role playing. The role playing is, like, so different for me. So, like, I have to have a few pours before I go live, and then I'm like, okay, I got this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my character's name is Nobilis, so named after Knob Creek. But which is one of my favorite whiskeys. So he is a half elf warlock. It's a bit crazy.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I usually played a halfling thief of some sort. So
awesome. Yeah, we have quite the characters on our campaign. It's a lot of fun. But
that's epic.
Thanks, Brandon, for the reminder about the giveaway. Yes, so if you guys missed it at the top of the show, giving away samples of the two we tried last time, Smoke on Water, Funky Drummer, and this older release of the rye whiskey. So every $5 super chat is an entry. Thank you, Brandon. So, all right, well, I'm going to leave a little bit of the cognac in this. I want to go back through it when we're done and kind of maybe rank my favorites for these. Cool. But if you're ready, we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. What do we decide on? The Pineau de Charentes?
Yes. So you were telling me a little bit about what this was. I was not familiar with this. So can you let us know what Pineau de Charentes is?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a fortified wine, classified as a fortified wine, and it's a mixture of typically either fresh pressed grape juice and some partially fermented grape musk. Not always, but then with cognac added back to it, usually a young cognac. And then that's aged in barrels for typically, I believe it's a minimum of 18 months, but also quite a bit longer as well. So it still has a lot of residual sugar in it. You usually get a lot of those nice, like Uni Blanc, the grape characteristics from the cognac grapes. So still kind of the same category, just a sweeter version of the last one we kind of tried.
Gotcha. I was going to say that I'm glad I left some in the glass, because I think this will be a fun one to do a little side-by-side with. But
it's typically aged in that.
I think on the nose, it's pretty similar. Do you notice anything distinctly different about this one compared to the previous one?
This one to me just honestly smells a little bit sweeter and more like honeysuckle or wildflower honey.
Yeah, I went back to nose the other one. Yeah, it's definitely a good bit sweeter. It does still have a little bit of that, like, fruity. I think honeysuckle is actually a great way to put it. It's not quite like straight up honey, but like a little bit of honey floral kind of aspect going on.
Totally.
Yeah, it smells really good. I'm excited to try it. Oh wow, interesting. That's pretty different. I wasn't expecting to be so different, but that one, it has a bit more I guess heaviness or heftiness. It tastes a bit more viscous. I think the finish, it's less just on the back end, and it's more basically the whole experience. You're getting a lot more of that cask influence. At least in my opinion. Again, first time trying all of these, so just going off the first impression.
Yeah, it's a good impression to have. I mean, I really think it really unfolds over your tongue as it goes, and it definitely sticks to it because of those residual sugars that were left in the cask as well. that, and it's kind of, for me, it also reminds me of like orange blossoms, or like
Okay.
what is it? Almost like kind of like a creamsicle kind of flavor to it. It's a little bit citrusy, a little bit
Mm.
bright.
Yeah,
Vanilla
on the
cream.
finish, I think it goes back. It gets really sweet, like up front and mid palate. On the finish, it goes
Mhm.
back towards what I was interpreting as floral earlier. I think it finishes very light, which is
Mhm.
surprising because it feels so heavy up front, but it finishes
Yeah.
very light. Hmm. Yeah, that's super unique. I don't think I've had a finished bourbon that's not necessarily. I've had some that have kind of dominated the flavor in a way like that, but not necessarily this flavor profile. This flavor profile blends very nicely with the notes that you already get in the bourbon. So I'm still getting a
Mhm.
lot of those dessert notes that I really love about Indiana bourbon, but
Yeah.
I think it's a heightened sweetness, kind of like you said earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't disagree. It was an exciting one. It's more of a dessert one.
Mhm. Oh, for
Something
sure.
you kind of sip. It is really good on a rock too. So
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, I can tell
yeah.
there's like a bit more heftiness to this one.
Yep.
Donnie with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Donnie. He says, "Awesome stream with an awesome guest. Love it when you have distillery folks on. Fingers crossed, I get the samples." Well, Donnie, right now
Yeah.
you have a 100% chance of getting them. But thank you so much. Anyone, yeah,
Good
Donnie,
odds.
but I appreciate you so much. Um, anyways, yeah. So that's a real dessert forward one. But this next one,
Mhm.
we're gonna only get sweeter from here, right? Maybe not
Yeah, yeah.
necessarily
Maybe not
sweeter,
quite.
but
Maybe not necessarily as over or as intense as perhaps the Pineau is, but
okay.
yeah, we should get a little bit more sweeter, a little more viscous as we go, and then until we hit the rye, that's a whole different story.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited for the ride. By the way, I meant to update us on the poll that I put out earlier. So I asked you guys what you guys are most excited or most curious about hearing about tonight. The cognac won overwhelmingly. 44% of y'all seem most interested in that. Maybe you were like me and you weren't familiar with some of these other casks. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have voted for them because I didn't know anything about them. So maybe after you hear this, you may be curious to try a bit more of these. So but yeah, the Muscatel cast, which we were about to try, was 13% of y'all were curious about that one. So this is another one, Jesse. I'm gonna have to ask you to tell me about this Muscatel because I'm not familiar with that type of a wine. Is it a wine?
Yeah, it's like technically a sherry. And this
Okay.
particular one, it can be made in a few different countries, usually France, Spain, and Portugal, but mostly Portugal. And in this case, it is a Portuguese product. It's Muscatel de Setúbal, which is grown in the southern region of Portugal, and it's produced just like a sherry. So, for example, you ferment the grape juice to a certain point until you want a certain amount of residual sugars left, and then you add your usually it's brandy de Jerez or some other brandy that's been added to it to stop the fermentation in its tracks, and then it continues to age for however long the producers decide it to. So it's more similar to like a Fino or an Oloroso in this case.
Okay. Gotcha. So maybe not. Yeah, maybe I was wrong about the sweetness, but maybe we're still going up in kind of intensity. Maybe.
Yeah, and to be fair, like our Oloroso finishes actually have quite a bit of sweetness in them,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're super dry. I mean,
Mhm.
we like the wine itself, right? The sherry is, but then when we go to put our whiskey in them after it has time sitting at finishing cast, we notice those bourbons tend to have these really beautiful sweet notes that you wouldn't think you would ever get out of the sherry itself. So,
Gotcha.
so
Yeah, my experience with Oloroso sherry is fairly limited. I have tried one like actual Oloroso, but I've had plenty of
Mhm.
Oloroso casts. So usually to me it's less sweet, but I mean, man, this nose, this one's honestly the most intriguing on the nose. I'm trying to. I mean, it's hard to even compare to the other ones. I think it's very different. What do you get on the nose of this one?
So this one I think is a little more wine forward. You get more of those wine characteristics out of it that you would like from most sherries, especially like an Oloroso.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh wow, it's been a little while since I've even gone for this one.
Yeah. Oh, that's so different. I'm gonna try it. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh wow. Very. I mean, man, it kind of like tingled my tongue a bit. I
Yep.
wasn't expecting that. I guess I mean it's similar proof to everything we've been drinking, but wow,
Mhm.
that I don't know. Maybe it's just the wine influence, but oh
That
whoa,
one definitely dances on your tongue a little bit more.
yeah.
Um, This one to me tastes more like Mirabelle and plum, or like a fresher, lighter style plum.
Looking at the chat right now. Jeff Perkins is asking, he said, looking forward to the Doc's store pick I just picked up from K&L. Curious how that will compare to batch 9 and the blender's cut. I haven't had one of the store picks yet. So those, I imagine, are single barrels versus blends, right?
Typically, yes. The store picks tend to always be single barrels. So directly from the cask into the bottle. Yeah, it would be interesting. I imagine it was a bourbon. I think we've done bourbons and rye recently for some of those store picks at K&L. So if it is a bourbon, I can tell you I have tasted it right out of the barrel myself, because I do approve every single one of those that goes through our system. And it's only going to be one of the mash bills in the blender's cut, of course. So I'd be curious which one it is.
Yeah, Jeff, let us know. He picked it up. So Jeff, let us know in the chat which one that is if you happen to know. Emily's here. She says, I love port. I am a big fan of port too. I see Lil here, Joseph in the chat. Good to see all you people popping in. Steven here. I saw Steven had a comment. He said, I've been a big fan of Muscatel finish stuff. This is the only thing that I believe I've had, at least in American whiskey, that's used this kind of finish on it. It's super interesting.
Yeah, you don't find too many of them. There's definitely some other ones. I tried it was a Japanese whiskey that was a Muscatel finish that actually blew my socks off lately. I thought it was epic.
Wait, I'm trying to think. Wait, I think I may have tried that one on my podcast. I think they sent me a sample of that one. If we're thinking about the same one, I forget the name of it.
Probably me too at the moment, actually.
I mean, Steven may know, because I think he actually recommended it to me to try on the podcast. So that may be the one he's been talking about. He likes that one. So Steven, let us know in the chat. Man, I'm going back to the Muscatel. This is honestly, I think this is so unique. It's something that I don't think I've experienced on, like I said, American whiskey before, and I'm really digging it.
Yeah, that one I can chew on for a while.
Well, I was going to say the last one I thought was Vistas, but I think this one is still turned up
even more
on ice. This would hold up super well, I think. It's lighter to me. It's still got a bit of like the floral aspect to it, but it has like I don't know. Maybe this is the one that you said that they added grape juice back into the original cask that they were.
No. So that was the Pineau Charentes is primarily grape juice and cognac blended together, and this Muscatel is partially fermented grape juice, of course, to make a wine base, and then stopped with the addition of brandy.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say this one has like a bit more of this one I think is fruitier. I mean, I'm gonna have to go back, like I said, and taste back through them comparatively, but so Steven says Sagamore had a rye that was finished in it too. Okay, I haven't had that one. I'm a big fan of Sagamore though, so
neither have I. It's hard to get some of those bottles here on the West Coast.
Oh yeah,
at least in the Northwest, nobody buys that stuff. Nobody buys it in Washington, so we always have to like hunt them down and like find them. I usually get my sales guy to try and grab me some when he's over on the east side of the country.
I think Total Wines around here in Southern California have a good bit of them, but
I'm envious.
So Joseph Brazo says, when we visit our daughter in Bellingham, is it worth the trip to Ferndale? Gift shops has facility. We had that question come up last time from someone else.
We did. We actually are in the works to maybe do a tasting room, but we don't have one at this point in time. We do all of our blending and warehousing here. But if you happen to be up in this area, probably shouldn't even say this out loud, but drop us a line or something like that and tell us where you heard of us, and maybe we could open the door, But technically, we don't do anything. Yeah, exactly. Say Clifton McDaniel. But we were technically not open to the public.
Gotcha.
At all. Maybe one day. That's the goal.
Jeff Perkins. Oh, the question earlier about the single barrel pick. It was barrel number 0272. So I assume it is the bourbon then.
Probably. I'd have to look it up. We have a couple hundred barrels. I imagine it was 027 or 0272 was probably a bourbon, and it was the 21%. I'm sure. If it's the bourbon. So.
Gotcha. Well, very cool. Enjoy that, Jeff. Cheers. Big Vic in the house. Good to see you, Big Vic. Oh, apparently Woodinville also had a Muscatel finish. Interesting. I haven't had the Woodinville one either.
Oh, neither have I. That was probably like local release only or something.
He says they still have it at the distillery. Yeah, Joseph is like he's not an official Woodinville ambassador, but he's just he lives close to the distillery. So.
Oh, awesome, very cool. Well, hey,
so he may get me some samples every now and then from them. So.
Well, I'd buy a bottle if you bring one.
I think Steven says, I think Nika and Yoichi. Okay, those weren't the ones that I've had, but that's really interesting to know. Yeah, I think Muscatel and Japanese whiskey seems like something that would work really well together.
I thought it worked beautifully. I think the one I tried was the Nika.
Gotcha.
I didn't buy the bottle. Somebody just gave me a drink of it.
Very cool. Well, I think that might be in the running for my favorite so far, but we got 2 more to try here. So let's go ahead and move on to the port one. Now, that was the one that I think was also, according to the poll, that was the second most. So 29% of you guys were most interested in hearing about that one. So can you tell us a little bit about this one, like the Tawny port cask you guys use?
Yeah, certainly. So I mean, it is also fortified wine. So once again, fermented grape juice. That's been stopped. The fermentation was stopped to keep some amount of residual sugar in the cask, of course, and it stopped with brandy. Brandy de. Yes, brandy. Sorry, I'm mixing them all up now. It stopped. The fermentation stopped and then it's aged further in oak casks, and these casks were used for upwards of about between 2 and 4 years, typically before I got them. So they're pretty rich in Tawny port, and then these aged between 5 and 8 months. Actually, most of these were between 5 and 8 months that we've tried so far.
Other than the first one, the cognac, that was, you said 11 months.
Oh yeah, correct. Yeah, the cognac was aged 11 months. Pardon.
So Fred is excited for this one. Chadwick says, "Aloha from San Diego. Love Doc Swinson's fantastic juice. Awesome people. Cheers to you. Thanks for watching. I think that's the first time I've seen you in the chat, so I appreciate that." By the way, if anyone's new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button while you're down there. Like I said, giving away samples of 2 Doc Swinson's pours, as well as a sample of 2 of the Exploratory Cask. I need to slow down. And this rye whiskey from a few years back. So thanks so much. So yeah, let's go in. I'm going to give this a nose. I'm excited for this one too.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to start without you.
No, it's all good. To me, that's more familiar. I've had more experience with port casks. So
there's definitely a lot more of in the market. And they, I mean, because they tend to be a little bit more bold in flavor. I think that they go really beautifully with both bourbon and rye. Also, you can find the casks a little more often.
Yeah, I think most of my experience with it has been with rye compared to bourbon. What made you go with bourbon for this one over rye?
I think it was more curiosity because of that exact reason. I haven't seen that many bourbon versions of this or finished in port casks where I've seen a lot of ryes. In fact, I have quite a few of those bottles that you probably all have tried. And they're all great, but I really wanted to try doing something with bourbon.
Yeah, I've always felt that rye, to me, it kind of doesn't hide, like there's still the rye spiciness that's there, but I feel like the cask sometimes takes over rye more than bourbon. For this one though, with the bourbon as like the base, I think it's still that dark, rich bourbon flavor that I really love, and it's kind of accented by that sweeter, the stone fruit kind of influence that the port's giving it. This one again is more bourbon forward than I think some of the other ones we've tried most recently.
Absolutely. I mean, I really think the Tawny port, because it being an aged port or in a oak aged port, it really emphasizes like those, like you said, the fruit flavors, but specifically, like to me, this was like raspberry preserves. I mean, it was like dark raspberries and cherries, in like a nice syrup. So I think that really uplifted some of or added to the bourbon notes that were already present. Without consuming them by any means.
To me, I feel like part of the like you said that it isn't. You said an oak aged port. I think to me I know that we're using the same bourbon for all this. To me, this tastes older. I guess maybe it's just the way it's interacting with it. But to me, this one almost makes the bourbon taste a bit older, which I think and that's really awesome. I think that can have that much of an influence on it.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of I think what we do here is to try and because we're working with typically 5 and 6 year old bourbons, which is great. Right. They're all really wonderful. It's a really nice, safe spot to work within. They could be a little bit more predictable in that age frame, which is really nice. And I think one thing we do really well here at Doc Swinson's is like almost make everything taste like it's punching closer to like 7, 8, even 9 years old. Like for example, our blender's cut, most people think it's 8 or 9 years old when they try it as well, but it's actually 5.5 to 6.
Oh, gotcha. Alexander in with the super chat for entering into the giveaway. Okay, Donnie, now you got some competition. Thank you so much, Alexander. I appreciate that. Steven is asking, what is the barrel size for the port casks?
The port casks were 225s liters. Pardon. So
Gotcha.
standard wine cask size.
Cool. Awesome. I know we rushed through this a bit quicker than we normally do, but I'm still okay. Before we move on to the rye, I think I'm gonna pick my favorite bourbon. Do you have a favorite? I mean, I know you may be biased, but like, what is your favorite of these? Not that there has to be a best one, but is there one that really aligns with your palate?
Yeah, I think one that I've kind of found myself attached to a little bit more often was actually from the get-go was the Pineau de Charentes, because I thought it had more like these really beautiful, like insanely subtle, complex characteristics in it that were kind of hard to pick out actually. But as you sit with it and chew on it for a while, it really starts to kind of just open itself up more. But I would have to say the Muscatel was probably one of the more surprising ones. And
that one definitely would caught me off guard the most compared
to I mean, like you said, I mean, you don't really see a lot of those kind of things here. If you have it, there hasn't been a widespread use of them where you see a lot more port casks or cognac casks. And I don't know, I think it was pretty darn good, that one. So they're all wonderful, but I think the Pineau de Charentes is the one that kind of like took me from the get-go right off the bat. I was like, whoa, this is really pleasant. This is some flavors that remind me kind of actually like my grandma in a really awesome way. Like,
so like her, like, is it more of like, cause I mean, that's a note I hear a lot. Like a lot of people say grandma's house or maybe people say grandma's perfume. Is it you more of like the house or the, that's a weird question. Is it your grandma's house or her perfume?
No. It was her kitchen actually, straight up her kitchen all the way. And it reminds me of like all the fruit and stuff that we used to process and can when I was a kid. We made a lot of different kinds of like apple sauces and stuff like that. That one kind of reminds me of that for some reason. That's
awesome.
So it has something kind of close to me, and she actually just passed away. So
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's part of it.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, it's okay. But anyways, that would reminds me of it. I was like, wow, that's so nostalgic for some reason. So
I love, and I think it happens a lot. I think whiskeys bring back certain memories, not necessarily the fact that you were drinking whiskey when you were with your grandma making preserves, but something about smell. Sometimes to me, it's more of the smell than anything else. And I think I love when a whiskey can do that. And especially if you're like, just sipping, just like by the fire, relaxing. I love that you can sip that and bring back those memories. I've had that happen with several different whiskeys. So that's really interesting to hear. So
it's probably one of the coolest things to experience, right? Is, I mean, like probably one of the most underappreciated senses, aromatics, and how it can influence you and change your like emotional state. Like right off the bat, you're like, whoa, oh my gosh, I remember this time. And then, hopefully they're always good. Mine are.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have a memory that gives you bad memories. Maybe you want to dream for that one, but got a couple super chats coming in. Fred says, props for another fun stream with a great guest. I've only had the Tawny port finish on a Pendragon single cast. Interesting, but I can see it working well with the bourbon. Hopefully these will get wide distribution. Hopefully. So yeah, Fred is our resident trucker. So he's all over the country. So he's usually based in like, I think Colorado and Texas area. So maybe they'll hit out there.
That's awesome. Pension makes really wonderful stuff too. I've actually had that one before.
I haven't had anything from them as far as I'm aware, or I may have. If I have, it's probably because Fred sent me a sample, but I don't recall that specific one. And then Tony is in for the giveaway. He says, "Hey Cliffy, I'm rocking my Cliffy and Bus shirt. It's an inside joke. It was a reference on another stream, and I made a T-shirt out of it. But he said, I've only had the Alter Ego bourbon, but I drank it all. That says something about how good it was. Cheers."
Hey, thank you so much, Tony. Appreciate that.
Cheers, Tony. And thank you for repping my merch. I know there was a sale aligned with Prime Day. There was a sale on my merch. So make sure you guys go check bourbonbytes.threadless.com if y'all are interested in any merch. It might still be on sale. I don't know for sure. Might be. But thank y'all for the entries. Also, so I got to say, my favorite of these, oh man, I'm going back and forth between two. Not that it matters, but I just, first impressions. You know what? I got my order. Okay. For the bourbon. Okay. I think the Muscatel is my favorite. I think it surprised me the most. It, to me, tastes like something unlike anything in my collection. And I think that's what makes me like it the most. A close second to me was the Pineau. I think that's, I see why you fell in love with it. I think it's sweet, but it's like not overwhelmingly sweet. It's got a nice heftiness to it. But yeah, those two are really close if I had to pick. Now this is just first impressions. I've only had like literally a glass of each of them. So I'm sure if you spend more time with things, you can maybe appreciate things in certain other ones. I will say the Tawny port was also very good. And Cognac, to me, I typically haven't loved Cognac finish. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I've had it in quite a few other whiskeys, and I think to me, it's too subtle. I want something a bit bolder. So that's why for me, that's of the ranking of these, that's my last, I don't want to say last place, but my fourth place. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
I totally get it. No, thank you. I mean, absolutely. It's kind of fun every time I send samples out and stuff, and whether they're friends or influencers or bourbon groups, etc. There's always a wide variety of people that just love one in particular, for example, and I think that's really awesome because that means we do a good job across the board. At least that's how I interpret it. It's like, okay, we're doing well. Somebody over here loves the Tawny, somebody over here loves the Muscatel, the Pineau,
right,
etc.
It's not like everyone like hates one.
No, exactly. We haven't had that comment so far,
yeah.
So that's been great, whether directly or indirectly. So I can't complain there. And
that's also the goal. You got to contribute to the name. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, it kind of goes with the name, Exploratory Cask. It encourages you to explore, like tonight I'm trying finishes I've never had on bourbon. Well, especially this last one we're about to move on to. But so I love that. And I think, everyone's going to find something that gravitates towards, that their palate gravitates towards, whether they've had ones like it or not, or if it's their first time trying it. I do encourage, I think you guys are pretty, do we know pricing about, I know it's different depending on areas, but about pricing on these exploratory casks?
I actually have not been told the price on the exploratory cask at this point in time. But my guess is they're going to be somewhere between, and once again, keep in mind I'm in Washington, the highest price state in the country. I'm pretty sure for liquor, or one of them. My guess the exploratories tend to be somewhere around $70 and $100 a bottle, $70 and $90 a bottle. Gotcha. But once again, that really just depends on where you're going. I mean, I've seen one of our rarest releases we ever did, other than the 15-year, was the Cognac Cask Cabernet, which was.
I reviewed that. On my podcast. Actually, I forgot who sent me a sample of that. But
oh my gosh,
one of my viewers sent me a sample of that one. Yeah.
Well, that's epic. That one got nominated for best finished whiskey for San Francisco Spirit Awards this year. Yep. Cognac one took it, but we were right there.
I remember those nominations had just coming out the day that I recorded that, and I couldn't tell if it was like the winner or the nominee. But that's awesome that you guys were nominated. And I think it may have been Patrick, who he may not be here tonight, that sent me that. So thank you, Patrick. Or if it wasn't Patrick, thank you, whoever.
Cheers for sharing. There's only like 443 bottles or something like that made is all we did, and that was 18 months in those casks. That's a long time. So.
These guys here are awesome, and I love that they love sharing, and I love giving back to them too. So I see Sugar Kitty, who's our Bite Club member here in the chat. If you guys want to support on YouTube and super chats, if you'd rather do a membership for $2 a month, you get access to cool emojis and you get your name highlighted in the chat over there. So, but it also does support the channel. So thank you, Sugar Kitty, for being here. All right, so are we ready to move on to the last pour of the night? The rye whiskey. I'm gonna say one more time before we move to this. We are doing a giveaway tonight of the Smoke on Water and the Funky Drummer, as well as the Doc Swinson's rye. So if you guys want to get in, every $5 super chat is an entry. Last chance. Once we try this one, I'm gonna cut it off and we're gonna spin the wheel of whiskey, which I haven't spun in a long time. I'm very excited to do that again. But okay, let's move on to the rye whiskey. So tell us about this one. Does this one? Oh, Tres Amigos. I was like, does it have a name? So tell us about this one. This is very, very unique and interesting.
So this one actually was pulled right from the I don't know, the crazy playbook here. It was truly experimental. Actually, all the ryes that we kind of put out recently, or are going to put out recently, or soon in a week, are just kind of like out of the all the way outfield there. So that's Funky Drummer, Smoke on Water, and Tres Amigos. And Tres Amigos is actually some extra Solera Method rye that I had. So the Alter Ego Solera Method rye finished in rum casks. Mm-hmm. I had about 150 gallons or so of that sitting left over from a batch because we ran out of labels one day. And instead of waiting to bottle that, a few months later, I happen to have 2 extra Añejo tequila casks sitting around that I was working on for another project.
I was like, as one does, just has extra.
I know, just laying around. Well, that'll give you a hint into something that might come out a little bit down the road here too. And so I was like, well, I think this would actually be a really nice flavor combination. And I ended up putting that extra Solera Method, Alter Ego Solera Method rye in these tequila casks for about, I think it was 5.5 months, 6 months. And it's actually probably one of the most surprising to me, and I don't want to spoil it, so maybe we should try it first. But I was pretty stoked about it, and of course, the name represents a couple different things. If any of you could guess why it maybe be named Tres Amigos, shout out.
Yeah, let us know in the chat. Any guesses? Get your guesses in. So Don Nishida has a super chat. It says, finally made it to a live. # sometimes I win. That was our
Yay!
Don Nishida, normally, he always say, I never win. And then he won 2 times in a row saying, I never win. So now he's like, maybe I do win.
Oh, that's awesome.
Good to see you, Don. Don's joining us. He's in Hawaii on the island of Oahu. So
very nice.
Good to see you. Yeah, we have people from all over tonight, people on both coasts. So I appreciate y'all. Y'all East Coasters staying up late, and y'all Hawaiian coasters, or what do you call Hawaiian time, folks? Hawaii time. That sounds like a thing. You guys for joining us early. Awesome. Well, I just poured it, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a nose. I'm really intrigued by this one. Oh, people are guessing that maybe it's the name of the tequila that was used. That's what Whiskey Fancy says. Tres Hombres Tequila.
Oh, nice. This is a good guess. I didn't even think of that one. No, it's not. After we're done tasting, I'll tell you guys the silly story behind it.
Okay. Tony Bagdona says, I voted for this in the poll not knowing it was rye, and now I'm really intrigued. Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
So on the nose, I think to me, it doesn't come across as anything too different than what I've had. I mean, I've had several of your expressions that are the rum finished rye. So to me, that's not too different. But maybe I got to taste it and pick up on those nuances. So cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, wow. It is different. I don't know. I mean, I do like tequila. I don't necessarily know I would place it as tequila casks, because I think to me, tequila has like the pepperiness, but also so does rye. So I could see why those two work so well together.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on this? Like when you experimented with this one, like what was your impression of it?
Yeah, so this one to me, you're right. It's I wouldn't say it's blatantly tequila at all. In fact, if we didn't tell you it was tequila, you might not even pick up on it.
I don't think I would.
It's and being it's like an añejo tequila, it really focuses. And it was a pretty old one, if that. Probably an extra añejo, to be honest, but they didn't tell me that. They just said añejo. I got the cask. It really focuses more on those like sweeter, like agave syrup and caramel and vanilla notes from the cask itself. I think is more prominent there, with a little bit of that classic like vegetal tequila taste as well as pepper. But once again, the rye already has quite a few peppery notes in it that they just kind of mingle well together, and it's not necessarily overly pronounced in one direction. So I think you get a really nice mixture of the pear, apple, cinnamon flavor that we get out of a rye, with the more citrusy, grassy, fruity flavors of our rum, and then this nice kind of more caramely, vanilla forward, slightly peppery tequila. They just all really blend beautifully together. So once again,
I was going to say,
you might not even know. You'd be like, "Oh, this is the strangest rye I've ever had."
There's a hint of something that I'm just telling you. It's like almost like smokiness in a way. Like to me, it's almost. I mean, to me, it's kind of reminded me of like a mezcal, kind of like. I'm really into mezcals. Like they're especially here in Southern California, they're everywhere. So those have like typically a bit more smokiness to them. So I'm getting a little hint of smoke on this.
Totally. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, it's not a mezcal, but that's really cool, and it might just be from the type of cask that was used. So these were unique in the fact that they weren't previously used for bourbon. They were new casks that were used to age this añejo tequila. So you probably would get more of those toasty notes, or slightly, because it wasn't charred either, more toasty American oak notes in there, and that might be where some of that smokiness you're picking up is coming from potentially.
Gotcha.
I'd love to do a mezcal finish one day. Maybe that's
that sounds super interesting. So for those of you that are interested in the giveaway, I'm actually going to include a small sample of this one. I only have what's left of this, but I'll include a sample of that so you guys can try it too and let me know what you guys think of it. So if that's your encouragement to get in on the giveaway, I'll cut it off in about 3 minutes. So just if that's the tipping point that puts you in for more entries, figured out that out there. But I really like this. But I mean, I love you guys' rye anyway. I told you before, like that's what I buy most often from Doc Swinson's is the rye.
Nice.
About the way what you guys mostly the, like I said, the Alter Ego one, which you said is 3 different casks. It's the rum, it's the
So Alter Ego rye is 2 different mash bills. It's Indiana, both of them, 95 and they're 51. So you get more the corn flavor profiles in there too. So it is a little bit more adjacent to bourbon. That is batch together, and then we take those bourbon casks that we dumped out to make that batch, and the previous round, and we fill those with rum that we produce in house. We blend our own rum in house, which is just for this process. We don't release it or anything like that. Maybe one day if we get real smart about it. And those rums, it's a mixture of 4 different nationalities rums that have been aged in 3 different types of casks, and we blend all that together. It goes in those empty bourbon casks. We take that out, and then we put the rye whiskey in that, and then eventually take that out, and it goes into our Solera system, where it mingles amongst 154 other barrels is what we're at about now.
Gotcha.
So, and then pulled out. So it's a long, arduous process, but it makes really good whiskey, and that's the point.
It does. It's one of my most purchased bottles. Like there's very few bottles that I will constantly buy a backup for and like just drink just on a regular day. That's one of the bottles. And like I don't like, these people know that I've mentioned this on the channel way before I even had you on. So
that's awesome.
I'm not just hyping it up. I am a big fan of it. But this, to me, that takes that and builds on it. It gives it an extra layer of depth. To me, I got smoky. Some people say they may get pepperiness on it too. I know ADHD Whiskey, Matt said that this was just takes you on a wild ride. So I think I don't see it as too crazy. I was a bit worried because I saw that. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be crazy. But yeah, but like, no, it works so well. And it really just complements the amazing rye whiskey that's in here.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel of it as well. To be honest, it just adds another layer that unfolds, and without being totally out in the left field there. I just think it's just really a pleasant one to hang out with. It's just a total sipper.
There's a couple questions coming in. Prescription Bourbon says, "Is that the actual Solera setup behind you?" You said before this is the mock one, right? Yeah.
So this actually represents the original one I had, which was made with this exact same amount of barrels. In fact, this is in a teeny little room, so these ones are empty. We had to like push them in through the door. We just thought it'd be a cool backdrop, and I had these barrels in here. And the only sad part is this is supposed to be my blending lab too, so it's blending lab / podcast room, and it's taken up half of it with these barrels. The other side is just bottles everywhere. Well, kind of. I haven't put shelves in. We moved not too long ago into this building. We're getting there, but no, so these ones are actually empty. They used to be like this, all stacked up on top of each other, exactly like you see right here. And then when we moved into this new warehouse, we built these big steel racks. So they go all the way up to the ceiling, about 18 and a half feet or so. They're 6 barrels high and 24 barrels wide. So they're pretty big. And we have multiples of those. Well, 2 for the Solera specifically. We'll have to post some pictures sometime or something like that. But
gotcha.
It's pretty cool.
I feel like I missed Fred was saying, so he's talking about the tequila cask. Can you name like where the tequila's from, or is it kind of, no, you can't?
I unfortunately cannot tell you at this point. And that's something that I'm really trying to work towards here at Doc Swinson's, is be able to get to do some collaboration, say, hey, this is where these barrels came from. Mm-hmm. And that is a really hard and often fruitless process because of, if you can imagine, legal teams don't really like letting you do that.
Oh, no, sure.
Like the smoke on water thing, I made it as like obvious as possible to figure out who it was. But I'm like, I asked and I was like, can I please? And they're like, no. I mean, they were very awesome about it. They're like, we wish we could. But... Anyone
that knows Scotch whiskey, they're gonna know which one that is. But that was cool that you guys were able to not say it, but like the people who know.
No, so. Exactly.
Oh, by the way, you said you would tell us the story about the name of the tequila.
Yeah.
The Tres Amigos.
There's one other thing I could tell you that might maybe lead to a hint, but it probably not, is these are independent stave company barrels. So they're really nice barrels that were used to do the tequila, or to age the tequila. And then we got them. I don't know if that'll tip you to anywhere, but
Fred, if you know, tell us on the after party and I'll I'll figure it out. But yeah, okay, that's good info though. I mean, Fred's our tequila expert here, so he'll do a deep dive. So Tony says he gave a few extra super chats to get the sample of the tequila. Cheers to you, Tony. I'm excited for whoever wins it to try it. So and then whiskey. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the name, but we'll do this first.
Okay. Whiskey Fancy says, wait, you don't sell the rum? What do you do with
it? We use it over and over again and occasionally drink some ourselves.
So you guys aren't making the rum, right? You said you're getting it from 4 different styles of rum to blend?
Yeah, so it's a blend. So the base rums are, and they're either 0 years old up to 5 years old when I originally got them. So it's Trinidad, Jamaica, Venezuela, and a good chunk is also from the USVI, so Crucian rum. which I'm sure most of you know who that is. And then I age them all and then blend them together to make another batch, my blended batch, and then age that further. And then we use that to actually influence the ex-bourbon cask. So that's the reason why our rye also has a fair amount of bourbon flavor going on in there, is because they were recently dumped bourbon barrels, and the rum goes into those and then pulled out after a while. So you get this nice bourbony rum kind of flavor. And the rums can be a little over. They're very bourbon adjacent, let me tell you that. It would be, if you tried it, you'd be like, whoa, that's very different than any rum you've probably ever had, to be honest, or very, very out there.
Sounds like you should release it.
It's funny. We actually did release one version of the very first edition I ever did, like 5 years ago. It was just a total experiment. We put it on the market, and there may be some bottles running around somewhere in the ether. I don't know. And we did get a lot of feedback that people were like, wow, this is really good. Like bourbon people that don't like rum, because it was very bourbon forward. It was very, very there. And to be fair, we have talked about maybe releasing it one day, maybe like a 1 year random release. So if you want to find out more, here's my one sales bit. If you want to know more about these exploratory casks and when they're going to drop on the online market, if you go to the Cool Kids, like sign up for the Cool Kids Club on our website, and we're going to put in a little news shout out before anybody else will get to hear about it when these exploratory casks are coming out on the website. So
gotcha. You guys make sure you said docswinsons.com, right?
Docswhiskey.com. I think docswinsons.com will also get you there.
Gotcha.
But docswhiskey.com. It's on the back of the bottle too, if you happen to have one in your house. So I'll get you there.
Awesome. Emily asked, any idea what or where those tequila casks will go next? Oh, interesting. That's a good question. So like after you guys have done the finishing in it, you guys gonna do something with the tequila casks? Well, you said you have another project that you're working on.
Yeah, so that was some other of those tequila casks when I originally got them is going towards something else. These were just two that were left over. I didn't have enough liquid for, or enough of the other product for, so I put the rye Solera, the Solera method rye in there. But to answer that exact question, I don't know yet, but I actually work with a lot of different cideries in Washington State, because we, apples is a kind of a big thing here.
Yeah.
So a lot of different cideries in Washington State have been picking them up from us, and they age their ciders in them, which is pretty cool. And then, sell their cider. And I usually never see the barrel again, but usually I get some cider in return.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that's cool. That's a cool. Yeah. It's always interesting to hear, what happens to cask after they, move on, for whether it's, a bourbon distillery or a finishing situation like that. That's super interesting.
Yeah. I've actually gotten a lot of requests lately from American single malt distilleries for our casks. I guess I can't really say their names, but you know what I mean? West Coast American single malt distillers. I'm sure you could guess there's a couple of them. So have been asking for barrels because there's kind of a barrel shortage here in the US at the moment, which has been impacting all of us. At least used barrels, I should say, and finishing casks.
Well, there's also a shortage of, I've heard there's like an oak shortage, like that we're predicting that we're going to run out of new American oak at some point soon if we don't do something a little more sustainable.
Yeah, something about needing the barrel to be brand new every time. Maybe that's when the rise of American single malt was really going to take off.
Maybe.
Which honestly, there's some really great ones out there, so I can see it doing pretty well.
Yeah, Joseph said we do have a lot of apples here in Wenatchee.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Washington State. We have great apples here. We have really wonderful apples. So lots of good cider.
Awesome. Well, I'm ready to spin my wheel of whiskey to figure out who's going to win. So, Jess, you want to help me with the Be My Vanna White?
Yeah.
Ooh, so we have everyone's name here. I've shuffled it quite a few times. So we're going to spin the wheel of whiskey to see who gets these samples.
All right.
It's a close one. But Donnie, the Linux cat, congratulations so much. I know you wanted these, so congratulations, Donnie. And everyone, thank you so much for your interest. Like I said, it does help support the channel more than anything. But Jesse, this was awesome. I'm so glad that you guys sent me these new expressions. I am definitely going to pick up 2 or more. So
sweet. Awesome. Thank you. And then Trace I did forget to say what Trace Amigos meant.
Oh,
if
yes.
We have a second. If we have one
No,
more
you're
second.
good. You're good. Go for it.
So Trace Amigos, we all kind of sometimes come up with names here at our office. There's 4 of us in the office, and we all really enjoyed the film, the Tres Amigos from the 90s with Chevy Chase.
I have not
So
seen
it's an absurd film. It's totally absurd film. So that's kind of where the name kind of comes from. We kind of give a little ode to it on the back of the bottle, in the back label there. But it also represents the fact that it's three North American spirits all coming together in a bottle that happen to be really awesome together. So that being rum, tequila, and of course American rye whiskey.
Awesome. Well, also, and I see Independent Joe's dropping in. If y'all missed, I was live on his channel last Saturday. Go watch the replay on Independent Joe's channel. Thank you for dropping my Patreon link down there. Appreciate that, Joe. But Jesse, thank you so much for coming on. You are welcome back next week. I'm just kidding. You're welcome back
Anytime.
soon, whenever you guys have anything else in the works. Always a pleasure having you on, and always exciting to try what new products are coming from you guys. So,
Awesome.
like you said, you guys go sign up for the Cool Kids Club at docswhiskey.com. Make sure to follow them on Instagram. Whoever's running your social media is very friendly with me. I don't know if it's you or not, but
it is not me. I'm not as friendly as Sandra.
She was super helpful. She taught me how to add a collaborator on Instagram. Didn't know how to do that. So
heck yeah.
thank you to her.
Awesome,
and thank you for her help promoting today's stream. So hopefully some people are, if you're new here, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe, come back. I'm here same time every Thursday night. And Jesse might be here for the next few weeks. I'm just kidding. Awesome, man. Thanks so much. Everyone, I'll see you, patrons, I'll see you at the after party, hang out. But everyone else, I will see you next week. Make sure to tune into tomorrow's podcast. I am reviewing 2 13-year-old Jim Beam whiskeys. So tune into that. Awesome. Jesse, see you next time. Cheers,
Thanks,
everyone.
Appreciate it.
Bye.